Where we find our meteorologist Mike Seidel joining us from the town of Revere, just outside downtown Boston. And Mike, you've got some excitement happening later today, maybe a changeover, and also really gusty winds ramping up.
Yeah, the winds are ramping up right now. Logan is just down the beach here. In fact, the planes come right over the water, depending on which way they're landing, from the east to the west. The winds right now at Logan are north-northeast at 21. That's the strongest we've seen them sustain so far. But by later this afternoon, we could see gusts on the coast, upwards of 50 to 60 miles an hour. Dr. Postel talked about the heavy, wet snow, and that combined with wind, even with leaves off the trees, that's going to mean power outages. No doubt somebody's going to lose power. Even if you don't get, say, 6-7 inches of snow like out in Worcester and those areas west of 495, that central Massachusetts corridor, and then up into parts of south central New Hampshire. Right now it's just rain, 42 degrees, not raining very hard. It's kind of a steady light rain. We've had about a half an inch at Logan in the past 4 or 5 hours, so it's not a very intense rain. But again, some spots will pick up an inch or more rain. There are no flash flood watches or flood watches out. This is going to be so quick as it moves on through. And once it does move on through, the snow will taper off this evening. Change over in Boston mid to late afternoon. Again, the farther west you are, 128, 95 corridor will change over before downtown Boston and out here on the coast. Boston, 2 to 4 inches of slushy snow. And tomorrow with temperatures above freezing, mid-30s and sunshine, that will take care of any issues on the roadway tomorrow morning before sunrise. So, Melissa, first nor'easter of the season, and a lot of folks think nor'easter and snow, but it also means rain and wind, and many times we'll see heavy rain at the coast, and the interior gets, shellacked with heavy snowfall. But this time around, as the column cools, we'll see the rain change to snow across the entire coastal area. But again, as you get down towards the south coast, the South Shore, and the Cape, and those areas like Plymouth, the totals are going to be much less than we'll see in the Worcester Hills.
Yeah, but those winds will certainly be strong as we head later into today. Thanks, Mike. We'll check in with you coming up in a few minutes. All right, well, our Mike Seidel is heading to Worcester, Massachusetts, where the snow is really coming down. They can see about 6 inches plus of snow there. He's joining us now on the phone on the roadways. And, Mike, it looks like it's still wet there as you're in the Boston area, but what are you expecting as you continue driving west?
Yeah, we're driving west on the Mass Pike. Matt Saper's in the Weather Channel vehicle, and he's just behind me. So that's what you're seeing. It's a very wet drive. Temperature is 39 on the old car thermometer. So it won't be long before we get west out towards 495. We're coming up on the Mass Pike I-90, I-95 interchange, if you're familiar with Boston. So we're west of downtown Boston. And the temperature's already dropped 2 to 3 degrees since we left Revere. So we're going to get out there and get into the snow and get back live on the Weather Channel. As I've checked Worcester's obs, there are moderate snow a half a mile last time I looked, and they're at 33 degrees. So it's snowing very hard. We've got that mezzo out for snowfall rates of 1 to 2 inches an hour, and that is going to slush up the roadways. Even though temperatures are above freezing, keep in mind when it snows really hard in December, even in the daytime, it will accumulate. But for most of us, certainly inside 495, most of the snow will fall with temperatures above freezing. That's the saving grace, and most of it will fall by about 7 or 8 o'clock tonight. So if you have any travel plans tomorrow morning, you'll be fine on the major thoroughfares because they're going to treat them. Any scraping necessary, they'll get that done. The sun comes out tomorrow, and we'll be in really good shape. But first nor'easter of the season means rain or snow, or in a lot of cases in the Boston metro right now, rain going over to snow. In Boston itself, we're expecting 2 to 4 inches. Again, the farther west you go, the more snow you will see. So we'll keep you updated. We're heading, again, west on the Mass Pike between Boston and Worcester. The Worcester Hills changed over in the 7 o'clock hour this morning. So elevation made a big difference up there about 1,000 feet. Stay with us. We'll come back to get more on this storm and its impacts. And if you're a skier, good news for you for the ski resorts in New England.
Well, we continue to track Winter Storm Earthbound. Our Mike Seidel is heading to Worcester, Massachusetts, where the snow, as Dr. Postel was showing you, is really coming down. And you're traveling further west. You were on the Turnpike earlier, Mike. Where are you guys now, and what do you expect the road conditions, how will they change as you get closer to Worcester?
I think we're going to find some slushiness on the roadways. Right now, we are between 495 and Worcester. So we're about 10 minutes from Worcester, and it is starting to mix in. We're in the town of Grafton. Sign says entering Grafton. I can read the road sign there. So we're in Grafton, and we've got rain and snow mixed. Car thermometer now says 34 degrees, and the roads are just wet. As Dr. Postel mentioned, most of this is falling at temperatures above freezing, just above freezing. And when it snows really hard, like in Worcester right now, I suspect we'll see some slushy accumulations on roads that are not being, well traveled on, unlike the Mass Pike. But it's, the visibility is down because of all the spray from the water. Now big wet flakes are mixing in. And as I mentioned, we're about 10 minutes from Worcester. We're also going up in elevation. So that's another key. In fact, the Worcester Hills went from rain to snow in the 7 a.m. hour this morning. And it's going to be at least the middle of the afternoon before we see that getting into the Boston area, inside 128 and 95. Looks like now it's almost all snow just in the few minutes I've talked to you. And we'll keep you updated. We're headed to Worcester. As soon as we get there, we'll get out and get you some great live pictures. This is going to be a big storm, and combined with wind, we're going to have power outages. So keep that in mind. Have that phone juiced up. We'll be back with more analysis and more on the storm next.
In Worcester, that's where we find our Mike Seidel. And Mike, you just drove from outside Boston westward about 50 miles. And how were the roads really changing as you got closer into Worcester?
Well, we got to Worcester, and this is what we found, the slush on the roadways. By the way, MDOT's out. There's one of the plows. They'll keep the Mass Pike open. But all the way here, it was just rain all the way past 495. But big difference here, and the snow intensity's picked up, and they're plowing the lots. We've got the plow down here, the contractors. A lot of these guys tend to be landscapers, or they cut grass in the summer. They put the plow in the front, and they make some good money, especially out here where they average over 5 feet of snow. In a typical winter, they've had 6 so far. So the snow is adding up. We've had almost 2 inches in Worcester. It's a very heavy, wet snow. Temperature still 33 degrees, but it's coming down right now. And the flakes have gotten bigger, and the visibility now has come down below a mile. So we're certainly pushing moderate snow here in Worcester. Again, this is going to all change over. If you're seeing rain now in Framingham or Lowell or over towards Boston, it will change over as we go through the afternoon and evening. But the closer you are to the coast, the fewer inches you will see. And if you get down towards Plymouth, you're not going to have to worry much about an accumulation. But the winds will be howling as that storm comes up the coast. We're expecting gusts on the coastline 50 to 60 miles an hour. Back here, maybe we get a gust 35 to 40, but you combine the heavy snow, heavy wet snow, and the wind, and that is the perfect setup for power outages. We'll come back. We'll keep you updated from Worcester as we continue to track Winter Storm Eartha and the Nor'easter right here on the Weather Channel. Good afternoon. Welcome back to Worcester, Massachusetts, and we are getting really dumped on right now. Heavy wet snow, big flakes, temperature 33, winds at the airport have been gusting 25 to 30 miles an hour. Not quite as windy here, but you can see what it's doing to the roadways. They are getting snow-packed, snow-covered, slushing up because this snowfall intensity outweighs what little radiation we're getting from the sun through the clouds in December, and the fact that the temperature is just a smidgen above freezing. And you get a sense that you really have to slow down, especially on heavy wet snow, because there seems to be more ice in it. It's not the powdery stuff. So we're going to deal with this through the afternoon into this evening. Again, heads up, the winds will be ramping up across all of southern New England, including the Boston area. And by the way, this is going to change over in Boston from rain to snow eventually. But out here where it's already snowing and we already have 2 to 4 inches on the ground, this is where we're going to have the highest totals in the state of Massachusetts. Out here in central Mass, including the Worcester area, the Worcester Hills, again, west of 495. So, Dr. Postel, you were talking about what you were seeing on the radar, and, the radar doesn't lie, This is ground truth. This is not fake weather. This is real. This is a real deal here in Worcester. Love it. I love this.
Yeah, Mike, and I think the snow is even going to pick up in intensity even more in the next hour or so.